Colleagues, I think we had a good round table just before coffee and tea, which was focusing on green trade in the future of Africa and navigating climate change, the African continental free trade area, and the global supply chains in transition to sustainability. We thank the Deputy ES Pedro for guiding that high-level discussion. I now turn, colleagues, to an item on the agenda regarding the consideration and recommendations and adoption of resolutions, which is item 5 on the agenda. Under this agenda item, we will be considering the recommendations, as I said, emanating from the meeting of the Committee of Experts and examine the draft resolutions before us for adoption. I will now call upon Zimbabwe as chair of the Committee of Experts to take us through the recommendations from our Committee of Experts. If Mr. Andrew Vumbe is in the room, I see him. You may take the floor. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Honorable Ministers, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. As Chair of the Bureau of the 42nd session of Committee of Experts meeting, which was held from 28 February to 1 March 2024, I have the honor to present to the Conference of Ministers of Finance, Planning and Economic Development the report, recommendations and draft resolutions adopted by our committee. The report of our committee was issued as E/ECA/COE/42/L.1 and can be found through the Paper Smart portal, which has been displayed on the screens. Mr. Chair and Executive Secretary, the committee made the following recommendations for your consideration as the Conference of Ministers. The first item we went through was an overview of recent economic and social developments in Africa under our agenda item 3, as per our agenda for our meeting. And the recommendations of the committee can be found on section 3, paragraphs 19A and B, on page 4 of our English version of our report. I think what came out clearly was that the overview of the recent economic growth rates and social developments are the low growth rates in Africa. And we talked about the huge potential and the need to move from the huge potential to realization and delivery. I think that was mostly emphasized by our committee. And really the need for higher GDP growth rates, some proposing even double-digit growth rates which are required. The major recommendation on this issue was really the full implementation. We recommended the full implementation of the agreement establishing of the African Continental Free Trade Area to stimulate manufacturing and increase intra-Africa trade. Another major recommendation was implementation of well-designed industrial policies that address issues of climate change and promote manufacturing and value addition, among others. The second item on our agenda was item 4, which dealt with the assessment of progress on regional integration in Africa. And the committee's recommendations are contained in section Roman numeral 4, paragraphs 2A and B, and they're on pages 5 and 6 of our committee's report. I hope, honorable ministers, you have the report as circulated. I think In the ensuing discussions, the experts stressed that continental strategic initiatives such as the Programme for Infrastructure Development in Africa, PIDA, and the agreement establishing the African Continental Free Trade Area were critical to the success of regional integration and reducing the cost of doing business and improving competitiveness. We had also a presentation from NEPAD in terms of the implementation of projects, and we stressed that most of the priority PIDA projects are critical to accelerating regional integration. And one of the key recommendations was that we mobilize resources to advance regional integration, speed up the implementation of the agreement establishing the African Continental Free Trade Area. And then another key recommendation was to take deliberate action to develop infrastructure to facilitate regional integration and also leveraging digitalization as a solution to security concerns relating to the free movement of people. The next agenda item we discussed was under agenda item 5, where there was a presentation on the theme of the 56th session of the Economic Commission of Africa. For this agenda item, Honorable Ministers, the recommendations of Committee of Experts can be found in section 5, Roman numeral 5, paragraph 27, A and B, which is on page 7 of our committee's report. So under this item, experts underscored that African countries must define and lead the establishment of inclusive transition priorities, harness innovative financing, and use their abundant natural resources to fund the achievement of development objectives. I think this was very emphasized, that we have abundant resources and we need to exploit and leverage them for our development objectives. Also, our experts emphasized that domestic resource mobilization remained a critical source of finance for development in Africa, and that countries should prioritize borrowing from national and regional capital markets rather than focusing too much on green and blue bonds, which can be expensive. And then also the experts called for an approach to help African countries to understand better and develop capacities related to carbon markets, green and blue bonds, and biodiversity credits as sources of finance. This came out very clearly, that our understanding and appreciation of carbon markets needs to be worked on, including the issue of ECA helping us in this endeavor as we go forward. And then the next item we discussed, Honorable Chair and Honorable Ministers, were the statutory issues for the Committee of Experts, which considered the following matters under agenda item 6. First one was the report of the Executive Secretary on the activities of the Economic Commission for Africa from April 2023 to February 2024. And the second report which followed was the report on the follow-up of the resolutions of the Conference of African Ministers of Finance, Planning and Economic Development. And then the third report was on the work of the subsidiary reports was on the work of the subsidiary bodies of the Economic Commission of Africa. Again, Honorable Ministers and Chair, the committee's recommendations on these items can be found on paragraphs 30, 35, and 40 of our report. Because of time, I will skip going into details, but quickly in our discussions, experts commended the Secretariat on its successful implementation of the planned activities, its support to members of ECA, and the promotion of African position on global platforms. They underscored the importance of mechanisms for monitoring, evaluating, and reporting on the progress made in implementing the 2030 agenda. And then in terms of recommendations, the members recommended the strengthening and use of Africa Regional Forum on Sustainable Development as a platform for integrated monitoring and evaluation of progress made in implementing both the two agendas. And then also on the proposed program plan of plan and the budget. I think in the discussion, experts raised concerns about the high levels of poverty and gender inequality on the continent. They highlighted the importance of embedding social development into education and building skills through strengthening education systems to unlock the potential of Africa. Another key issue for your attention, Honourable Ministers, which we discussed was IDEP, which is our Human and Institutional Capacity program under IDEP. I think the issue we noted of concern was the huge arrears by member countries. I think we have only 7 member countries who have paid up. So we also discussed the alternatives, including barring countries in arrears not going for training, not being invited for training. So we also urged countries to pay up for ADEP. Also, the expert commended ECA on its work in 2023 and recommended for consideration and adoption the Conference of Ministers, the proposed program plan for 2025 and the draft proposed program budget for 2025. And then on the reports for the subsidiaries bodies, again, in our discussions, we commended the Secretariat for its work in supporting member states in a wide range of issues which include energy, digital technologies, inclusive and sustainable green industrialization, demographic dividend and job creation, and also again the issue of the implementation of the agreement establishing the African Continental Free Trade Area came out very, very strongly, and we hope we can make progress in this area. Moving on to the next item, we looked at the recommendations of the committee on the report of the United Nations System Support for African Union and its new partnerships for Africa's Development Program, NEPAD. And these are found in paragraph 46 of our report. And then the next item we dealt with in our meeting as experts, we looked at the recommendations on the report of the implementation of the Vienna Program of Action for landlocked developing countries for the decade 2014 to 2024. Again, there was great interest and debate on this topic, including the issue of whether we talk of landlocked or land-linked countries. Again, these are issues for discussion. And also we looked at the Doha Program of Action for the least developed countries report on progress in implementation of priority areas in Africa, and these are contained on paragraph 49 of our report. And then, Honourable Ministers, Chairman and Executive Secretary, the next item we discussed was the committee's recommendations on the date, venue and theme of the 56th session of the Economic Commission of Africa, which was our Agenda 7 on our program. This can be found in paragraph 52 of our report. But broadly speaking, it was proposed that the 57th session be held in Addis Ababa at ECA headquarters in March 2025 under the theme of advancing the implementation of the agreement establishing the African Continental Free Trade Area, proposing transformative strategic actions. There was also debate. There were 3 proposed themes. The second one was digitalization technology to advance the economic transformation of Africa. And the third one was on investing in food security and energy transformation pathways towards swifter achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals. We debated on this issue, but it was agreed that we focus on the first one, which deals with our critical path towards implementing of the agreement establishing the African Continental Free Trade Area, but also it should take into account these 2 other themes into consideration. And then the draft resolutions, Honourable Ministers, the Committee of Experts also adopted adopted 4 draft resolutions as follows. This first draft resolution one on strengthening tax cooperation for enhanced domestic resource mobilization, which was issued as E/ECA/COE/42/RES/L.1. The second draft resolution on the 2020 program plan and budget was issued as E/ECA/COE/42/RES1/L.2. And then the third draft resolution on the reorganization of the work of the Economic Commission of Africa, which was issued as E/COE/42/RES/L.3. And then finally, the fourth draft resolution on optimizing African tax regime concerning information and communication technology for economic growth and job creation, which was issued as E/ECA/COE/42/RES/L.4. As chair of the Committee of Experts, I humbly submit for our report for your consideration, honorable ministers, and I would like to thank my colleagues and the delegates for their active participation and their valued contribution to our agenda. I submit, Chair, and for your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Andrew Vumbe, for that report from the Committee of Experts. Another round of applause to our Committee of Experts. Thank you. Excellencies, I suggest we first consider the recommendations made by the committee and then the draft resolutions. First, I invite the conference to consider the recommendations made under Section 3, Paragraph 19 of the committee's report, and this pertains to the overview of recent economic and social developments in Africa. Any comments? Going once, going twice. May I take that the conference wishes to adopt these recommendations? I see no objection. It is so decided. I invite the conference to consider the recommendations made under Section 4, Paragraph 22 of the committee's report, and this pertains to the assessment of progress on regional integration in Africa. Any comments? Going once, going twice. May I take that the conference wishes to adopt these recommendations? I see no objection. It is so decided. I now invite the conference to consider the recommendations made under Section 5, Paragraph 27 of the committee's report, and this pertains to an issue around the presentation of the theme of the 56th session of the Economic Commission for Africa. Any comments? Any objection? Going once, twice? May I take it that the conference wishes to adopt these recommendations? I see no objection. It is so decided. I now invite the conference to consider the recommendations made under Section 6, that's paragraph 30, 35, and 40 of the committee's report. This pertains to items regarding a report of the Executive Secretary on the activities of the Economic Commission for Africa for the period April 2023 to February 2024. It also includes a report on the follow-up of the resolutions of the Conference of African Ministers of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, and finally, reports on the work of the subsidiary bodies of the Economic Commission for Africa. Again, colleagues, any comments, any objections? I see none. Going once, twice. May I take it that the conference wishes to adopt these recommendations? I see no objection. It is so decided. I now invite the conference to consider the recommendations made under paragraph 46 of the committee's report. Any comments, objections, going once, twice? I see no hand up. May I take it that the conference wishes to adopt these recommendations? I see no objection. It is so decided. I now invite the conference to consider the recommendations made under paragraph 49 of the committee's report. Any comments, objections, going once, twice? May I take it that the conference wishes to adopt these recommendations? I see no objection. It is so decided. Thank you. I now invite the conference to consider the recommendations made under paragraph 52 of the committee's report. Any hands up? No? None? Thank you. May I take it that the conference wishes to adopt these recommendations? I see no objection. It is so decided. That concludes the recommendations, and we've approved all of them without objection or amendment. Congratulations. Your Excellencies, I now tend to draft resolutions. We will now move to consider the draft resolutions for adoption. The draft resolutions have benefited from the review of the ad hoc drafting committee established by the Committee of Experts and comprising member state representation from each sub-region. So we feel everyone was represented region by region. These resolutions have also been reviewed by our Committee of Experts in the course of their work and recommended to the conference for adoption. There are 4 resolutions before us, which are read out by the chair of the Committee of Experts, and you can find them in the report of the Committee of Experts issued as E/CA/COE/42/L1 or through the paper smart portal. We shall proceed with the first draft resolution, and this is on strengthening tax cooperation for enhancement of domestic resource mobilization. And this was issued as E/CA/COE/42-Res/L1. Any contributions and comments? Who is it? Is that DRC Congo? Oh, DRC Congo, you have the floor.
Merci beaucoup et merci à toute l'équipe d'experts pour le travail qui a été abattu par rapport à ces projets de résolution. J'aurais juste 2 commentaires sur ce projet de résolution sur le renforcement de la coopération fiscale pour une meilleure mobilisation des ressources nationales. C'est au niveau du premier paragraphe. Autant il est vrai que reconnaître que l'aggravation des déficits de financement et la persistance des contraintes budgétaires dont les effets ont été exacerbés par la pandémie et maladie à coronavirus et les conflits en Ukraine ont limité la capacité des pays africains à faire face à la crise alimentaire et à la crise énergétique. Mais je pense que c'est limitatif de se limiter à ces 2 causes. Nous avons des conflits au niveau de la région Afrique, et je pense que ça perturbe aussi et ça exacerbe un certain nombre de crises. Et de la même manière, les crises climatiques aussi, quand on voit avec la sécheresse qu'on a un problème avec un certain nombre de cultures qu'on n'arrive plus à produire comme il se doit, et donc ça va provoquer, ça va accentuer les crises alimentaires. Et je pense que ça devrait aussi apparaître. Merci. Alors, l'autre point, c'est au niveau du paragraphe 7, donc je compte, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, et la dernière ligne, enfin les 3 dernières lignes parlent dans laquelle la Commission de l'Union africaine, la Commission économique pour l'Afrique et la Banque africaine de développement ont été chargées de poursuivre et d'approfondir les recherches sur les flux financiers illicites. Je proposerai de rajouter une incise qui dirait « et passer à des actions concrètes ». Parce que nous ne pouvons pas continuer juste à poursuivre et approfondir les recherches, mais il est important de passer aussi à des actions concrètes et de les proposer. Merci.
Thank you. Merci beaucoup, DRC Congo. Colleagues, any additional comments? I see none. Shall I then propose that, because I think these are good comments made by DRC Congo, that we expand the narrative around the sources of conflict. It's not just in Europe, but also there are conflicts on our continent, as well as climate shocks. If we could, Secretariat, take note and add those, please, unless someone objects, but I don't see any objection. And then on paragraph 7, again, basically being concrete. On headphones. Again, being concrete about the actions to be taken to deal with illicit financial flows. Again, I think this is a good suggestion from DRC Congo. Any objection to including these? Going once, going twice. I take it that this resolution has been adopted. It is so decided. Thank you. Shall we proceed to the second draft resolution on the 2025 program plan and budget, issued as E/ECA/42/RIES/L2. Any comments, any input? I see none. Going once, going twice. May I take it that the conference wishes to adopt this draft resolution? I see no objection. It is so decided. Shall we proceed to the third draft resolution on the reorganization of the work of the Economic Commission for Africa, which is issued as E/ECA/42/RES/L3. Any contributions, any comments, any additional input? I see none. Going once, going twice. May I take it that the conference wishes to adopt this draft resolution? I see no objection. It is so decided. We shall now proceed to the fourth draft resolution, and the final one, on optimizing African tax regimes concerning information and communications technology for economic growth and job creation. Issued as E/ECA/COE/42/RIES/L4. Any comments, any objection, any further input? I see none. Going once, going twice. May I take it that the conference wishes to adopt this draft resolution? I see no objection. It is so decided. We have thus completed our work under this agenda item.